Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Our guest today is Ian Ord from Sidewalks, and they do tours in Mexico and in other parts of the world, Philippines, where else? Thailand, a couple of Asian countries. But you've been running tours in Mexico for a number of years now. You guys have 27,000 followers on Instagram at WSE Travel. And we welcome Ian Ord to the podcast.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Ian. So you were recommended and introduced to me by Rick Gazarian, Global Gaz, friend of the podcast, previous podcast guest. And so anyone that Rick recommends, that's going to be a good guest. So the audience is in for a treat here today.
The same works both ways. He recommended me to you. So that comes with a lot of weight. He's a great guy.
And are you Canadian?
I am. Yeah. I grew up just outside of Toronto.
Outside of Toronto? Okay, cool. Where in Toronto? Like what area?
There's a city called Guelph. Most
Guelph?
People who have never been to Canada haven't heard of it. Maybe you have, but
I have been to Guelph.
No way. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I may or may not be from Toronto.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I had some buddies that went to University of Guelph and would go crash with them and go drinking and stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty much how most Canadians, especially from Toronto, know about Guelph, the big university.
There you go. Okay. And it sounds like you've been living outside of Canada or outside of Guelph at least since you were like 18, and you're so give me like the 60-second story, and then I want to go right into talking about Mexico.
Yeah, that sounds good, man. Actually, when I was 16 was my first taste of freedom, I guess, from the shackles of Guelph. No, I hitchhiked across Canada, and that gave me a taste that the world is a lot bigger. And when I was 18, I did my first overseas trip to Europe, just for a month, just after high school, and worked a really crappy job in a factory for a year to save up enough money to do around the world trip for a year when I was 19. That led me to working for a huge travel company based out of Toronto, G Adventures, for a number of years. And in 2011, hit kind of a glass ceiling there and decided to try living abroad and moved to Thailand. Was in Southeast Asia for 5 years, and I've been in Mexico now for the last eight and a half.
8.5 years. So are you a citizen yet of Mexico?
Not a citizen. I'm a resident.
Permanent resident?
Working on it.
Still temp?
Temp. I wasn't planning on actually staying here as long as I did. The first few years I wasn't technically living here. I'd come for 6 months, right, and then I'd go back to Asia for 6 months. So in between, there was a transition. When the pandemic hit, I was in Southeast Asia at the time and had to make the decision, where am I going to be as the world was shutting down? And I raced back to Mexico on a whim. Mm-hmm. And it was during that time that I started applying for my residency.
Okay,
cool. I really set roots here.
Cool. I think there's definitely some opportunity to talk about like Mexico versus Asia in terms of like living and lifestyle and that kind of thing. But I want to hear about the company. So Sidewalks, then you guys do some Mexico tours or experiences. So there's the Day of the Dead tour. I absolutely love Day of the Dead. People don't realize it's not just like one day, at least not in Oaxaca. I mean, it's like 2 weeks. It's like almost a whole month, basically.
Yeah, you see things starting to set up. The energy is already in the air weeks before, and it trails off for weeks after. Almost like Carnival in Brazil kind of thing.
Yeah, good. Actually, astute observation there, because right now is Carnival, like it's Carnival week. Mm-hmm. And there's Carnival in Mexico, obviously, as well, in Mazatlan and in other places.
Yeah, Oaxaca actually has a few villages which get right into it. I love seeing the differences and the different interpretations that they have here. Every village in Oaxaca sort of has its own specialty arts or craft or practice.
Hmm.
And so there's a village which makes alebrijes, some ornately painted
Yep. The,
figurines,
they're like dragon figurines.
dragons, and psychedelic, like something out of a psychedelic dream, really.
Yeah.
And so they have masks and decorations that sort of reflect that craftsmanship from the village. If you go to the village next door, Santa Catarina Minas is famous for ancestral mezcal. And people paint their bodies, but the costumes are a little different. You see a lot of circle shapes painted all over them.
Mm.
What I learned a couple of years ago is they actually dip their mezcal shot glasses in paint and put those on their body, reflective of what the practice is of their town there.
There you go.
So pretty
Yeah.
cool.
For the listeners, if you are a Mexico-based expat, you need to know what alebrije is, because that's like it's actually a good test of like your a test of your understanding of Mexican culture. If you don't know, if I ask a Mexican expat, do you know what alebrije is? And they don't know what it is, it's like it's a clear giveaway that they're just like living in an expat bubble.
Well, they could think it's the Oaxaca soccer team as well, which I'd give them points for that.
It's funny. So you run a bunch of different tours. So we have the alebrije experience, paint your own. We have ancestral food experience, mezcal experience, cheese experience. I guess like walking tour experience, cotton textile experience, another type of mezcal experience, chocolate experience. I want the chocolate experience. Um,
Chocolate one's amazing.
Prehistoric cave experience, red clay pottery experience, wool textile, and then Zapotec candle making experience.
Yeah, and that's the list so far. We've got about 6 more coming down the pipeline.
So these are prices are these have to be in US dollars. It's not 180 pesos, I'm sure. How is it 180 bucks for a chocolate tour?
Yeah, that's a minimum of 2 people, so it's $90 each.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we price things where it's based on. I think one of the problems with a lot of the tourism industry in Oaxaca is that it's doing a very archaic, old, maximum volume, minimum price type practice where
Mm,
you'll find people. I mean, I'm not trying to slam them for hustling, but there is a very old mentality where they'll just try and get people on a bus with zero inclusions, and they'll take you to artisans, to mezcal producers, etc. And they don't pay anyone that they're visiting for their time. And so it becomes like a mezcal producer is giving out all these shots of mezcal, getting people to try all the different types, and then pressure selling you bottles of mezcal.
right.
And then the tour guides, who aren't getting paid very much, end up demanding commissions. And so there's usually no
Tips.
inclusions, and everybody is just trying to hustle throughout your tour. So it's basically like going on a like a shopping spree where every store is just trying to pressure you into buying something from them because they're not getting anything otherwise. And so we tried looking at it from the opposite perspective. How do we make this more sustainable where people actually feel valued for their time? And asked people, how much uh, would you be producing in textiles if you're offering 3 to 4 hours of your workday to cater to guests to actually give them a proper workshop? Um, that way, at the end of the day, they're still getting paid a fair amount without actually feeling the need to pressure people into buying. Buying is a bonus for them. The tour guides as well, we pay well. And so there's no pressure to try and get commissions. We actually ask that the guides don't ask for commissions, that all the service providers are getting their full amount for their,
Mhm.
their work. Um, so yeah, sustainable tourism generally costs a little more because we want to make sure that everyone's actually being paid fairly. Um, One way that we describe it is we want everyone that we're working with to be able to eat at the same restaurants that their guests are eating at.
Mm. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. If you're a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Haltza, author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income by implementing his paycheck multiplication layering method. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond $20K a month. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, if you're interested in unleashing your earning potential and doubling your income, then click the link in the description and book a call with Rolf right now. That's fair. No, that definitely makes sense. I can see how it changes the dynamic of what type of tour it is when you get sort of a private tour.
Yeah, and we're also that's another thing. It's when it's private, you're getting private transportation, which of course then the price isn't being divided amongst a group of 12 people. You're getting a private guide for the day. Again, their cost is not being divided through the whole group. If it's just one or two of you, well, you're paying for that private service.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And so do the tours leave from Oaxaca City? Do people have to get themselves to Oaxaca City? Or I imagine a lot of people are down in Puerto Escondido and stuff like that. Or what's the logistics look like?
Yeah, I mean, for the tours, for most of the tours that you see online, they're day tours. And so you would be picked up from your hotel. In most cases, you're driven outside the city, sometimes up to an hour to get to the different artisan villages, and then driven back and dropped off at your hotel. But if you want to come up from Puerto Escondido, at least there's a new superhighway completed and very fast, cheap transportation to get from the coast up to the city.
Okay, so Oaxaca City, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you're based?
That's where I'm based now, yeah.
Yeah. What a great city for day trips, eh? Like the number of things that can be done from Oaxaca City. You don't even have a tour for the ruins there, like Monte Alban or something.
No, that's a little. I mean, it's not overdone. It's an amazing ruin, but it's easy,
Yeah.
and there's so much volume. A lot of our tours are also trying to interact with the local people. And so visiting ruins or Quiebre de Agua, for example, a waterfall, doesn't really have the same ability to interact and learn about the life of the locals who live in that site. There's nobody living in Monte Alban, as far as I know.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I'm sure people probably ask about like language. Maybe I imagine the majority of people doing your tours don't speak Spanish, or at least not like super well, and maybe you provide a interpreter. But what do you say when people just voice concerns about language?
All of our tour guides are local, and so that's part of our platform. Is that even though I'm foreign, we offer tours in Thailand, Philippines, Borneo, starting things in Panama, and other countries as well, Dominican Republic. And here in Mexico, of course. And it's not my story to share. I work with locals who want to share their story and give them a platform to be able to do so. And so your tour guide would be local, the people that we're visiting are local, and all, of course, speak their native language, Spanish, sometimes an indigenous language like Zapotec or Mije or Mixteca, and English as well. And so finding tour guides who have a solid understanding of English is very important to the level of engagement, because when you visit, say, a mezcal producer, and he's taking you into the fields to talk about all of the different agave types, Um, and usually his kids are coming along, and he's talking about teaching his kids, so that if a mezcal plant takes 18 years to mature, and he's planting it today, it's probably his kid who's going to be harvesting it. And so, talking about all these different processes and trying to explain that, it's more than a scripted basic English that is sometimes found on fast day tours in historic sites.
Mm.
There's a lot more engagement in the translation and empathy and personal stories that are being shared. And so it's one of the biggest challenges that we have for scaling is just having that foundational empathetic level of English that is needed for this type of experience.
Mm-hmm.
That applies to pretty much everywhere we work.
Yeah, I imagine the rural Oaxacans don't speak too good of English, so there has to be some level of intermediation, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, a lot of them, Spanish is even their second language.
Right. This is very true.
The villages that we visit for textiles, for instance, speak Zapotec at home, the native language for that area.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a cool part of that tour is because that is their native language, they try to teach some Zapotec words while you're with them, which is just another part of the engagement and honoring their ancestry, not only their ancestral traditions of textiles, but also their language, their stories. I've always found that aspect of language interesting, that there's not always a direct translation for something.
Mm-hmm.
A poem in Spanish translated to English might not make as much sense or might not sound as beautiful. If you look at indigenous people in Alaska, they could have 50 words for snow. And we just use we're from Canada, we have maybe 3 or 4, slush or compact snow or fluffy snow, And they have different meanings to us, different feelings that resonate.
Snowball snow.
Snowball snow, packing snow. Right?
Packing snow. Packing snow, that's the word I'm looking for.
But yeah, so I mean, when those languages start getting lost to globalization, they lose a lot of the feelings and their connection to where they live. And so we try to honor that by letting them share that as well.
I mean, the tours seem incredible. I mean, seems like the kind of thing if my parents were visiting me or friends were visiting me, like I'd book the tour, we'd go with them, and like we'd have like a sick experience, and I'd know that we were very well taken care of.
Next time you come down, I'd love to bring you on an experience as well.
Dude, I'm down. I'm curious about like how you actually like set this business up, because I know like so many expats have probably had this idea, and I'm genuinely curious because I've had this idea, particularly in the coffee regions of Mexico. Like when I visit the coffee regions, some astute observers of the podcast might realize or people who really follow my tweets very closely would realize that I live in a coffee region of Mexico. And there's literally no coffee tour that you can just like book. And it's the number one coffee producing region in Mexico. And you can't even do a coffee tour. You have to like have your own car and like drive to the fabrica or whatever, like drive to the coffee farm itself and just like rock up and, hope they like have somebody there. Like it's insane how they're not capitalizing on it.
Yeah, a lot of our tours, I mean, we started with mezcal and textiles, which was already not overdone, but pretty saturated in Oaxaca. Oaxaca is, like Veracruz is a coffee capital. Oaxaca is a mezcal capital.
I guess the word's out. I'm in Veracruz.
Nope.
It's all right. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's a big state.
It is a very big state. Or Chiapas. No, maybe you're in Chiapas.
I'm trying to throw them off. Yeah. There's a lot of coffee regions actually, and even in like Jalisco, I think there's a big Colima. different. But anyway, yeah, I'm in Veracruz, motherfuckers. But yeah, keep going.
So I started finding that, yeah, every weekend that I went out into a different village, I realized that there was different things that were being offered, and so many were so fascinating, and nobody was really putting any attention to it. And so building a tour uh, is all about relationships. You have to have a good relationship with the coffee producer,
Yes,
or with the chocolate producer, or with the mezcal producer. And that sometimes takes more than just one visit to introduce and say, hey, do you want to have tourists come visit you? Because they're letting people into their home, really, and into their
totally.
lives.
This is very intimate.
So there's a lot of relationship network building. I think this is the same for any business, really, is who you know. And then from the other side, it's the tour guides, and even being able to bridge that relation. Maybe it's you making the relations. Maybe it's your tour guides who already have the relations.
So what comes first, the tour guide or the like activity people?
Chicken and the egg.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you find a tour guide who already has the connections and isn't doing anything like that.
Uh-huh.
We've got a tour guide who, uh, it's funny, we started working with her, and she's like, yeah, I was born in San Martin Tilcaete, which is where they make the alebrijes.
Hmm.
And but she lives in the city. And when one of our tour guides already had a connection for alebrijes, we introduced them. It turns out that she knew his uncle and da da da, right? And the more that we've worked with her, it's like, oh, and she knows this person who makes red pottery in another village, and she knows this person who
Hmm.
makes barbacoa in this other village, and it's like, oh, super well connected just through her own relations.
Yeah.
And so that's opened a lot of doors for us in terms of what we're planning to offer or what we already offer. Sometimes it comes from that. Uh, Oaxaca is also not, it's a small city that feels big, or a bigger city, well, medium city that feels small sometimes, depending how you look at it. Uh, so everybody starts to know everybody here, and that opens a
Sure.
lot of opportunities as well. Um, and those relationships can get pretty deep. I mean, the mezcal producer that we work with, even though I'm never on the tours, I've developed a good relationship with a lot of the artisans, and was invited to the quinceanera of one of our mezcal producers,
That's funny.
the baptism of one of our textile producers. And then I ended up seeing some of our guides at these events as well. And sometimes they didn't even do the tours like to those destinations, but I was like, oh, you guys already know each other. Well, you should lead these tours for us as well. Yeah, it's a lot of it's just down to relationship building, because without that, you can't really be invited into somebody's home, or it's a lot more awkward, I guess.
So how did it go? Like how did like because is your Spanish like pretty good?
Sí, es bastante bien, creo.
Bastante bien. Okay.
No,
And
pues mi novia es mexicana también, entonces solo hablamos en español en la casa.
okay, solo hablan en español en la casa. And tell me a little, like, go a bit deeper on like what it was like to build these relationships, and did they even believe you that you had the capacity to execute on these tours and to actually bring people consistently?
Uh, Sometimes there is a little bit of apprehension, and it can be anywhere, not just in Mexico. We've had that with shamans that we work with in Thailand as well. Like, oh, I don't know if we want like tours coming for the sacred practice, until that relationship is really established a little more. Uh, and then they start realizing, oh, well, it's actually me who has full control of what I'm sharing of my culture.
Hmm.
We're not dictating what they need to share. We try and steer the ship a little bit, that there's you know an understanding of foreigners' expectations, but also we want the foreigners to understand that there's local expectations as well. in terms of customs and
Yeah.
hospitality. And generally, when we find that medium, uh, there starts to be a pride when they get to share their practice from their own words in the style that they want to share it. That it's not unnatural or inauthentic. There's no script. That they're just usually in the end making friends, and we're really honored that the people that we work with give us that opportunity to open a window into their lives and into their homes.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download, or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys. Totally. Yeah, I'm one of my buddies is like a little more on like the hippie side of things. He's like vegan or whatever. And I was like, "Yo, we got to go do where I am in right now in the Canary Islands in Spain. They have camel tours, and they're like legit camels because like Africa's like right there, right?"
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, "Yo, we got to go do the camel tour. It's only like $30 a person. Blah blah blah. We got to do the." He's like, "I'm not doing the camel tour. Like my girlfriend doesn't want to do the camel tour." I'm like, "Dude, they're not mistreating the camels. Like the camels are like." The camels are fine, but and even my sister, I'll be like, "Yo, we get like the zoo. The zoo's amazing. Can't wait to go to the zoo." Every city I go to, I love going to the zoo.
Mhm.
But some people are like anti-zoo. Some people are
Yeah.
like the zoo, like they're like mistreating the animals and the cage is too small. And I'm like I don't know. That's like too woke for me. Like the zoo was fine. You know what I mean? Like no one's mistreating they're doing the best with the resources that they have. But anyway, so I
Sometimes,
think
depending on where it is too, sometimes they have a better life with regular meals, with proper care and medicine and
yeah,
everything.
I'm like, dude, they're all like rescued animals. Like, they're not like buying them for top dollar on like the black market or something. I don't know. Like, but
There has been a lot of changes. I mean, even since I started doing like this project myself, like in 2011 when I moved to Thailand, everybody was riding elephants and like petting tigers and all this kind of stuff. And then by like 2013, there was sort of a movement: don't ride elephants. There
mm,
is some rationale behind it. The elephants that are giving rides are generally mistreated. Bull hooks jabbing into their ears and whacking them on the top of their sensitive heads, right? And so, but that was just the beginning of
like conscious tourism, it's becoming a thing.
conscious tourism. And responsible tourism walks a very delicate line, right? Like we brand ourselves with responsible and sustainable tourism, but what's responsible is sometimes dependent on your upbringing and the culture that you come from, and what you feel is responsible varies from person to person. So we do the best that we can, uh, but there's always going to be people that will criticize that we could do better, and we'll
Exactly.
continue to keep trying.
It's like an unwinnable battle sometimes. It's
It
like,
is.
imagine the people who won't go to the Toronto Zoo. It's like, dude, how, like, it's got to be the most like regulated, like best possible zoo you could possibly be in, where they're like taking temperature of the cages and all this shit. Like, it couldn't be a better zoo. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
hundreds of millions of dollars invest, but people won't go to the zoo because they think that I don't know where this idea is coming from, that the animals are like mistreated or something. Like
Well,
there's a way to do it. There's a way to do a chocolate tour in a responsible way. There's a way to go to run a zoo in a responsible way. There's a way to do a mezcal tour in a responsible way. I'm still going to get drunk though, but yeah.
probably so will the host family. um, no, but that's yeah. I mean, Toronto itself is so heavily regulated. It's probably got one of the worst street food scenes in the world because unless if you have the proper refrigeration and all these cleaning chemicals and it's like, can you imagine they did that in Thailand and the entire food scene would just disappear, or in Mexico even, Um, but so yeah, I'm sure the zoos are in Toronto are okay too. Similar regulation. No, it is a constant battle, and I mean, I think a lot of the moves that are happening societally are for the best intentions to better everybody's lives and
For sure.
to live more sustainably and in sync with our planet. But sometimes the extremes are go a little beyond maybe reasonable or rational.
Tell me some stories about like you probably got like a million stories about people that had just like a cool or funny experience, funny things that happened on some of the tours. Any go to stories come to mind?
I mean, cool stuff. If cool and funny don't always go together.
Yeah, whatever
um,
comes to mind.
let's see. Funny. The mezcal tours can get a little rowdy sometimes. I had actually what stimulated the idea for doing the mezcal tours in Oaxaca is when my brother came to visit from Toronto, and he came January 2020, so just before kind of the world changed a little bit. And he works in service in Toronto, so he
Hmm.
works in restaurants and bars.
Yeah.
And he came with 13 of his closest friends,
So
who
they're vets. They're all
they were all like vets of bars and high end restaurants in Toronto, like
sure.
running the show, top tier. So they came for good mezcal and lots of it, and, and I went with them, and I don't really remember the bus ride back. I know that everybody must have drank at least a bottle of mezcal while on the tour. They all bought multiple bottles of mezcal to bring back with them, so that the producer was very happy.
Yeah.
Um, and by the time we got back, it's only an hour drive, and there was karaoke on the bus. We don't normally use that bus, but uh, by the time we got back, half the bottles they bought were already gone. So that was probably one of the messiest, sloppiest tours that we've had. But before we were even doing the tour, the inspiration. We've eased back on it a little bit. We don't want people
For sure.
in dangerous situations for themselves,
Yeah.
but or for the hosts. Um, what else? In Thailand, I mean, the cool stuff I think has really been hearing people's personal stories and how it touched them and how it impacted them. If it's visiting a shaman, one of the tours we're starting here as well is Temescal's
Hmm.
Limpias.
Yep.
Um, for those that listeners that don't know, it's a like a sweat lodge,
Yeah.
traditional sweat lodge, and yeah, it's hearing the reasons why people are going, and we've had people coming for reasons like getting over drug addictions or losing family members. There was even a refugee from Cambodia who had never really been in Cambodia. She'd lived in the US her entire life.
Hmm.
And it was a pilgrimage going back home and wanted a piece of her ancestry. And these tattoos that we offer there used to be in Cambodia as well. They're starting to come back now. Khmer Rouge wiped them out completely. And so hearing these like amazing, very powerful, sometimes horrific stories, but how much the experience that they have with the locals changed their lives or impacted them. And we're trying to do that anywhere that we go, that there is that kind of like deep level of personalization. And when you leave, it's more than just a story. It's something that you're going to carry with you when you go home.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's the cool side. And it wasn't something that we initially were trying to do. It was just connecting certain dots. And when it has that kind of consequence, I think one of the other really cool things is uh, is when the tour guides make those connections. They start off as a tour guide, just bringing people to visit a family, and then, like I said, like going to a baptism or a quinceañera and seeing the tour guides there because they were invited by the families, seeing those like relationships form as well, and those connections being formed. It's a beautiful consequence that you can't really force. It just happens organically.
Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about BitRefill. BitRefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. BitRefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. Totally. So the textile ones, like what kind of textiles are they making? Is it like blankets or
Mhm.
hats or other things?
Yeah, you can actually see a textile right behind me. That was from the wool textile family producers, ones who invited me to the
It's like
baptism.
a tapestry almost.
Yeah, and it's really neat. There's a traditional series of designs that you'll see in tapestries or rugs all over Mexico, and a lot of them actually originated here in Oaxaca. There's a temple called Mitla, which comes from Mictlan, the underworld, or
Hmm.
um, sort of like a purgatory. And in the temple, in the ruins, there's all these rock carvings, which are
Yeah,
exactly these designs. And so the village Teotitlan del Valle, right next door, uses those traditional designs in their rugs. But if you go to a like a rug shop in Tijuana or Mexico City or in Cancun or wherever, you're going to see those exact same designs or patterns. That's their primary bread and butter. The wool is all produced up in the mountains, comes down. They use natural dyes. The workshops teach you all about like harvesting the plants, making the dyes, um, making the wool, and then making these rugs on 100-year-old looms.
yeah.
Very cool. But then there's another town which does cotton textile, which is more pre-Hispanic. Um, that would have been before the Spanish brought over sheep. And so in their village, they have rock carvings that are thousands of years old. And they have patterns of snakes and celestial objects, and they use those in their textiles. But that's more like a backstrap loom. They're literally picking cotton and pulling it and making thread. It's a lot harder to work with. So they don't make rugs, but they'll make purses or bracelets or sometimes shirts. But that takes a really long time.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean it's endless, really, how rich the culture is here in Oaxaca, how diverse it is with
Hmm.
11 main indigenous groups, each with their own cultures and flavors and music and food and everything. But even Mexico, I mean, Mexico is just probably one of the most culturally rich and diverse countries in the world.
I think that's fair to say. People don't realize how deep it goes. Like I'm just constantly learning.
Yeah, going to another state sometimes feels like you're in a different country.
It
Really.
really does. It really, really does. I mean, Oaxaca could be its own country. Maybe it's not industrialized enough, but oh, it's got a little bit. But like
If
just the sheer diversity and size of it too. I mean, it's it's like as big and diverse as it's bigger than El Salvador. I mean, it's basically the size of like Guatemala or Nicaragua, and uh, I think it's fair to say more culturally diverse and just like more culture packed into it.
Yeah, I would say the southern states like Chiapas, Oaxaca, and Guerrero are probably some of they were the least touched by colonization.
Hmm.
And so there's even, it's amazing how fast it's changing, but there are people who don't speak Spanish that still only speak their indigenous language. And this is after 500 years since the
Hmm.
Spanish arrived. Um, there's a lot of pride in that, and you see that throughout the city. Um, you can go to the Zocalo, to the main central square, and when the vendors aren't trying to sell you something, they stop and chat with each other in their own indigenous language, and that's something that's been held on to. Language, food, traditions, clothing, textiles, all that kind of stuff for 500 years of resisting um, the resistance of colonization, right?
Hmm.
However, uh, I do have friends, even some of our guides, who don't speak the language that their grandparents only spoke. And so, in only three generations, from the grandparents only speaking, say, Zapotec, to the parents speaking both Zapotec and Spanish, to the younger generation only speaking Spanish. And so, it's amazing seeing how fast that, after all this time, there has been kind of a dynamic shift. Um, I think a lot of it comes down to job opportunities, pressure, social pressure. Um, but yeah, it is changing. But I saw some bloggers who had come through, and as sometimes happens, instant experts after a week trip to a destination, and were complaining about seeing the graffiti on some of the old buildings around town. Graffiti in Oaxaca, although there's beautiful murals, which is a new fad that started during the pandemic, um, there's always been political statements, social injustice, um, different movements within the community.
Hmm.
That's usually the messages that are being shared, and that's deeply tied to the roots that Oaxacan people have for that resistance, that inherent ancestral pride that there is here. And so I found it ironic that they were complaining about not being able to get nice selfies because it was ruined with these political statements on buildings that were built from stolen bricks from their ancestors' temples. You know, any old brick that you see that made an old church here was probably taken from pyramids that existed before. So there's kind of a beautiful irony in, and not only irony, like it's poetic that they're still fighting for the resistance by putting the message on buildings that were stolen from their ancestors.
I have a question for you.
Yeah,
Is there any tour that you wish you could offer in Mexico or in Oaxaca, but you can't because maybe it's just logistically too far from Oaxaca City, or you can't find the right team? Is there anything like that, like that you wish you could do?
actually, that's interesting. Um, the roads aren't always the best in Oaxaca. Sometimes a short journey takes a really long time. Um, but actually the road between Oaxaca and Veracruz that goes towards Tuxtepec
Hmm.
is loaded with just incredible little villages, each specializing in things like textiles or unique cuisine.
Hmm.
But it is not a very well paved road. It should only take about 5 hours. I guess it does, but it is a long, bumpy 5 hours through the mountains, crossing over, and that doesn't make for a good day tour. If you spend, 4 hours getting somewhere to spend an hour with the family and then 4 hours back, um, I think that would be something that we'd love to figure out ways, but it would probably be more multi days visiting families along the route.
Yeah.
Um, I think everything else that we've got coming down the pipeline are things that we've dreamed of. That uh, camping trips where you stay overnight with a family making barbacoa. Um,
That'd be cool.
Coming soon. You heard it here first.
Yeah, I mean that's hey, it might not be easy to learn textiles in a day. That might be a lifetime of dedication, but barbacoa, learn the recipe, watch them do it once. Hopefully, you can bring that back to wherever you're from.
Yeah, there's a cool tradition that some of the makers of barbacoa or the chefs have, where they actually bury some bottles of mezcal with the goat or the lamb while it's cooking underground. And so when they start digging out as the night's going on and they're checking on the meat, they pull out a bottle of hot mezcal and just sip on that while they're drinking it or while they're cooking it.
Hot mezcal, Jesus,
Yeah.
it's funny. I mean, oh, so much stuff in Oaxaca. I mean, there's a lot of pueblos mágicos. Do you go to any of the pueblos mágicos like Capulalpam or I guess maybe you go to Mitla?
Yeah. I think there was another five in Oaxaca announced just
Yeah.
a couple years ago. It's hard to
Here's
keep
the
up.
list. Here's the list. Here's the list. Mazunte, which is down at the beach, right?
Yep.
Juquila,
Haven't been there yet.
Huautla de Jimenez, which I
Nope.
think is hard to get to. Capulalpam, which is pretty close to Oaxaca City.
Mhm.
San Pablo Villa de Mitla, which is pretty easy to get to. And then San Pedro y San Pablo Tepozcolula. I don't know where that
Haven't
one
been
is.
there yet. It, it's a
It's
really
endless.
neat. It's a neat program because it's sort of like Mexico's take on UNESCO sites, right?
Yes, exactly. It's a good
And
indication of like cool stuff to check out.
I spoke with the director of tourism in Oaxaca a couple years ago. They've since changed guards, but he was one of the ones who actually came up with the program for Pueblos Mágicos. He also helped develop the city of Huatulco as a eco-friendly tourist destination for Canadian snowbirds like 30 years ago,
Hmm.
coming up with this idea of the sustainable destination. Um, but he was we were talking about like, well, it'd be really cool to bring people out there. Um, is that something that you really want to push and promote? And obviously, by designating it as a Pueblo Mágico, of course, that is in their interest. It's
It's meant to be to grow tourism.
yeah, and tourism boards usually, I mean, are dealing with over tourism as a destination gets popular and try to get the tourism dollars out of the city to go into villages that are nearby. And but one of the problems is a new destination doesn't usually have the infrastructure to handle a lot of people. They might have a little hotel with 3 rooms and one or two restaurants, and they're like, it's a Pueblo Mágico, and so they can't deal with all of a sudden hundreds of people a day coming into the village. It's something that has
So what do
to.
you, because when it is one off like that, what happens when the tour guide gets sick or any number of like human problems? The tour guide's sick, the bus breaks down, the family has a problem that day and they can't do the thing. You must have to deal with all these human problems.
Yeah. It's a service industry, right? I mean, uh, I lose another strand of hair every time that happens. And that's why I'm wearing a hat. it's it's something that you just have to, you try to have contingency plans in place,
Mm-hmm.
but especially in the nature of private tours, when a lot of the guides are freelance and they're working other jobs, um, or working with other companies, it's uh, last minute can be very challenging. And in the worst case scenarios, we have to cancel, unfortunately. But we try to work with the customer and figure out a solution that works for everyone, for the family that we're visiting, for the um, for the tour guide, and for the customers, of course, as well. It did actually happen that a car broke down here in Oaxaca. It was only like a week or two ago, and it was luckily, right at the start of the tour. Just picked up the clients, leaving the hotel, car stopped working, and I just ran down with my car, gave it to the tour guide, and then took the bus back home. But yeah, it's things that you have to deal with on the fly, and this is just part of life, right? Like, what happens if you're on the ADO bus and it breaks down? It's not much
Yeah.
you can really do. Wait for
Mexicans are very solucionista.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. Well, we kind of got to get wrapping up here. For the audience, there's a link in the description to the website where you guys can book a tour. If you are in Oaxaca, I would dare say that it is a must-do activity to book a tour with Ian and Where Sidewalks End. They've obviously put a lot of effort into making these tours happen and unlocking these experiences that would be pretty much impossible for you to do otherwise. Like, these are pretty unique experiences, and I really appreciate the sort of human touch and the private tour aspect of things. I know next time I go to Oaxaca, I'm for sure doing a tour. The chocolate one ranks high on my list. Mezcal too. But
It's a great combination.
yeah. I do like my chocolate. And guys, this is why you got to pack your suitcase is only 80% full, because you got to be buying kilos of pure chocolate to bring back home with you.
Yeah, pack, lay out what you want to bring, and then pack half of that. Is what I always say.
There you
Thank
go.
you so much, Fitz. I hope you're having a great trip as well. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thanks, Ian. When we say bye, just hold on for like 10 seconds as the audio uploads. But any kind of final message that you want to share with the audience?
Definitely, when you come to Oaxaca, come with an open mind and an open heart. And the same applies to Mexico. And just try to be open to all the new experiences that await you.
And the website is wheresidewalksend.com.
You got it.
And the Instagram is at WSE Travel.
Yeah, Where Sidewalks End was a bit of a mouthful. So.
Love it. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, our guest today, Ian Ord, Where Sidewalks End, WSE Travel. Thank you to the audience for listening. And wherever you're listening, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your favorite podcast player is, please subscribe to the podcast. Follow the podcast. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Ian, and you won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.